لله وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين ثم أصلي وأسلم على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Dear respected ulama Ikram, our elders, beloved brothers in Islam, we welcome you to yet another episode of our Fiqh of Marriage series. Tonight we are giving a continuation of our last episode, looking at the intermarital roles. Before the program, I was discussing with Dr. Abdul Hafiz why we need this. Why do we go into such discussions? This is to just look at the overall picture. You should remember that the main objective of this series is to find the nexus, to find a point where we can have what is in the scriptures, where we can have what is happening in the contemporary society, and the best practices therein, such that we bring them together, such that we can move on with less contradictions. We thank Dr. Abdul Hafiz for always sparing his time to share with us part of the knowledge that he has in these spheres. We pray to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to enable us accomplish our task. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to look at the intermarital roles in marriage. This series ran from the aspect of looking for spouses, who the spouse should be, who is better to be exposed to you with all the guidance. We looked at the interfaith marriages. We looked even up to the point of the wedding ceremony itself. Now that the family is now beginning, this family must have stakeholders, and these stakeholders is no longer the husband alone, it's no longer the wife alone. Other than me, I think I don't know whether I'm the only one who thinks that the family is more than me alone. It should be the husband and the wife, the children, and also the guardians and the society. All these make the sphere of the people who are responsible in this marital kind of assignment. We would like now to have Dr. Hafiz to help us understand the roles each of us has in this aspect of marriage, fiqh-wise, contemporary-wise, and also how do we approach the real challenges that we are now facing. Because as Imam al-Ghazali, he has written extensively on ethics, and I think it was Imam Qardawi. They have written a lot that relate to ethics. However, they always conclude by saying that ethics begin at family. Now, once we understand the component of family as a unit, we improve it. Those who are having their roles, they play their roles. I'm very sure when you look at what the scholars have said, we shall be strengthening not only our community, but the Ummah at large. We're having Dr. Abdul Hafiz, who is the Director of Sharia at the Office of the Supreme Mufti. He's also a scholar of Sharia and a lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda and other institutions of higher learning in the aspects of Sharia and the contemporary human rights approaches. We thank him for his scholarly work, and we thank him for always sparing his time with us. For all the brothers who are online, especially those via Zoom, and those who have made it a point to be with us, thank you very much. Next Media, Salam TV, for broadcasting live these sessions, thank you very much. AL-HIDAAYA Media, thank you very much for making yourself be part of the broadcasting team. Thank you very much. And all of you who are part of this kind of arrangement. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept, not forgetting the management of the Islamic University in Uganda for this and other, for the ICT support and the other support that they render to us. Over now to our lecture, and our lecturer is going to, not lecture actually, our facilitator for the day. I'm sorry why, I don't know why I've used the word lecturer, but he is one. Over now to Dr. Abdul Hafiz to help us understand the intermarital roles in marriage.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن سار على نهجه إلى يوم الدين. Allow me to join my moderator to pass my regards and the best salutation to all our audiences, both the physical and the virtual. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, we are meeting here to continue from where we stopped by looking at the intermarital roles. Intermarital roles, you can as well call them the marital obligations and rights. It is a very significant topic because of a number of reasons. Number one, all the previous discussions that we made, all the guidelines that we have hinted on, they all happen to end into this topic. Understanding the intermarital roles, understanding the marital obligations and rights, I have a belief, I have a conviction that once we put what we have understood into practice, it is going to improve on our family setup. As you all know, and inshallah as we shall look at it, our families, especially the Muslim families, today we are suffering from a lot of challenges. But the conclusion could be that it is basically because of the lack of understanding, the lack of implementing, the lack of carrying out our roles and our obligations. The intermarital roles, I want to take it like a conducive ground that is giving both the husband and the wife an opportunity to prove their skills, to prove their talents. We all know that the family unit is the first unit of the society. It therefore goes without saying that when our families improve, our societies are also going to improve. When we fail at the family level, we are also going to fail at society level. This topic is so important in such a way that it is like in the football game, when you are not in the pitch, when you are not one of the team in the squad, you happen to blame a lot. When you are a spectator, you have a lot of comments. You are the one who is seeing a person who has made a mistake. You are the one who is seeing who had caused the defeat to the team. But when the coach gives you an opportunity to go and feature, you might actually not do what is expected. So understanding the marital roles is so crucial and important in such a way that it is giving you an opportunity to prove your skills, to prove your talents. Before marriage, you have seen a lot. My thinking is that you have been learning a lot, theoretically and practically. You grew up in a family whereby you see what your father is doing, what your mother is doing. The simple question is, what have you learned from their experience? You grew up in a family and you have been seeing how your mother had been patient. In fact, when you listen to the narratives of our mothers, you will make a conclusion that they indeed persevered. They decided to stay simply because they were looking at the bigger picture. Not because everything was 100% perfect, but it is because they were looking at a bigger picture of ensuring a stable family despite what is going on among the challenges, and ensuring that the society progresses and prospers. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the points which show the significance of this topic. Number two, when we look at the marital relationship, the marriage relationship, right from the time we discussed about the nikah up to the time when the marital relationship comes to an end, understanding the roles, understanding the obligations, understanding the rights, it is actually the gist, it is the core of the marital relationship. Once we do well here, we are likely, inshallah, to have a successful marriage. And you know, when we have a successful marriage, as I have said, we are going to have a prosperous society. When we don't do well here, if we ignore, if we don't do what is expected at this stage, then the repercussions are known. The marital institutions, the family institution is going to become weak, and when it becomes weak, at the end of the day, we are going to see cases of divorce. So that is why this kind of topic is a very, very important topic. Let me also add on another significance of understanding the intermarital roles. The intermarital roles are putting you as the husband, as a wife, in a trial moment. Because this is the time whereby you are going to live closer to a person who is actually a stranger to you. You have not grown with him or her. She grew in a different environment. You also grew up in a different environment. But as a result of this contract, you are now going to stay closer. It is time to discover the true colors of your partner. I have always been emphasizing that before marriage, you will never understanding the true characters, the true colors of the person you are living with. Before marriage, people happen to promise a lot. There is a lot of hypocrisy before marriage. There is a lot of pretense. But the moment that nikah is concluded and you start living with a person in such a close proximity, that is when now you are going to appreciate whether really this is a good person or is not a good person. So, the intermarital roles and obligations are actually putting you in a situation to see whether you are going to tolerate and therefore move on, the same way how our parents tolerated, the same way how our parents persevered to see us grow in such a respectable family relationship, a family setup. Or you are just going to say that I cannot manage and therefore I give up, and then you quit. You quit thinking that the outside world is better. But by the way, when you try it, you might find out that it is also having its own challenges, which are even bigger than where you were before. But before we could proceed to appreciate and understand this topic, I wish to draw the attention of my audience to the real life situation. What is really going on? Before we could address this topic from the Islamic viewpoint, we need to appreciate the fact that many things have changed. The traditional approach, the traditional setup has been substituted with the contemporary ones. There is a lot of modification of social roles that have gone on. The traditional setup, as I have said, it is no more. People are now talking about modernization or modernity. People are now talking about westernization. People are talking about the Western culture. They have watched movies and films, and they see how the father is behaving. They have watched movies and series and see how the mother is behaving. And they think that they are just going to import all what they saw and then put it into their setting. So there has been a lot of modifications. There has been a lot of changes. And these changes have actually led to many, many other implications. For instance, you are all aware that as we talk now, we are talking about an era of women emancipation and women empowerment. Women have gone to school, walillahi alhamd, which is so good. Women now are out in public. They are carrying out certain roles in the public. Women now are active in politics, among others. Women now are involved in businesses, in commercial transactions, among others. I have no doubt that this is going to impact on our intermarital roles. That is a reality. The days when a woman was just arrested or was just detained at home are no more. Yesterday, I was just watching one of the footages, and it was carrying a headline that the president is female, meaning that today it's like the females are actually occupying all the space. So how does this impact on the traditional intermarital roles and obligations? Another challenge in the real life situation is that I don't know whether it is what is taking place, but we are now witnessing an era of young men who are very reluctant about their responsibilities. They don't have any concern about their roles. I don't know whether the problem is within the upbringing. Is it about orientation? Is it about what? We are witnessing a generation of young men and women who are not concerned at all. And of course, at the end of the day, you are going to find out that this is impacting on the intermarital roles as we have known them before. So this being the real life situation, what are the repercussions? Number one, the woman's role in the community has been redefined. That is the first. Because we grew up knowing that the mother is supposed to be at home, taking care of her natural responsibility of raising the children, raising the new generation. The role of a mother, the role of a wife now has been redefined. And the definition is lying between those who subscribe to this traditional school of thought that still think that a woman has to stay at home in order to carry out her parenting roles, and between others who actually subscribe to the school of empowerment, and therefore they are advocating for the woman's rights. You know, we have heard about the women activists, and so on and so forth. This is one of the repercussions. The second is also the traditional role of a woman as a mother of the nation. It has been abandoned. We grew up always singing that a woman is the mother of the nation. This is what we know. But when you go deep to analyze this statement, it is no more applicable. How can we continue addressing a woman as a mother of the nation when she's not even around at home? By the way, science and technology has led to a situation that even the act or even the role of mothering itself, it can be substituted. So this is also another challenge. And also we are looking at another situation whereby some women who have actually sacrificed to stay at home so that they can carry out their parenting roles, that role has been reduced to being a mere consumer. I am aware that we have some husbands who are not appreciating that role of a woman. They are looking at her as a burden, as a liability, as a consumer. And therefore, she's not making any substantive contribution to family development. This, of course, has led to another situation. The situation is women now, mothers in particular, are feeling insecure in terms of, they feel financially insecure. Therefore, what they have to do is to leave the home so that they can also go and struggle for earning. They can go out, struggle, so that they can also command their own wealth. And as this has been done, what has been the situation? The situation is when a woman looks at herself as being reduced to that level, and therefore she goes out so that she can also work for herself, she doesn't want actually to be reduced at a level of being a mere beggar. This is one of the challenges, and this is one of the issues that is actually making our wives get out of their homes. That each and everything she has to beg, including the petty issues. And therefore, at the end of the day, you find out that there is no one at home. And if there is no anyone at home, it means that we are likely to go into divorce. Another repercussion, you can all bear to this, or you can all testify that our homes have been abandoned. So at the end of the day, our homes are locked, our homes are closed. So that business of thinking that, let me go and pay a visit to my brother Abdul Hakim, thinking that we are going to find him or find someone else, it is no more. So homes have been abandoned because of this kind of changes in the intermarital roles. Finally, we are now living in an era of moral catastrophe. There is no doubt that when there is no father at home, there is no mother at home, the whole generation now is learning either from a maid or from a television set, if not from peers. It is okay. These days, our children are exposed to gadgets, electronic gadgets. But who knows who finds out? Who cares? Who knows what they are learning from there? This is because there is no someone who is guiding. Every person is busy, and therefore at the end of the day, we are likely to have a very serious moral issue in terms of or in respect to the new generation that we are looking at. You remember some time back, there was a riot that took place in the UK, whereby young men went out and started smashing the doors, the glasses, and so on and so forth. The difference between them and us, that when these events take place, they do research to find out who is responsible for that. The ones who have taken part in it, who are they? I read in one of the articles that the conclusion was the biggest or the majority of those who took place in this riot were children who were raised by either a single mother or a single father. So those are the consequences. Now, as I'm concluding this introductory part, I want to leave the following questions as food for thought. Number one, shall really our children, I'm talking about our children, shall our children witness the marriage ceremonies of our grandchildren? I want each and every parent to think about it. Alhamdulillah, I might have a chance to attend the marriage ceremony of my child. But the way I have raised that child, whether a daughter or a son, will my grandson see his father or his mother at a wedding ceremony? The second is, don't you think that this could be a deliberate move to destroy the Islamic family system? The third is, who is responsible? Who is to blame? Because the mother is out, the father is out. At the end of the day, children are like a flock without a shepherd. Nobody is taking care of them. So who is to blame? When you listen to the women, they have their own reasons why they have abandoned their roles. When you listen to men, they also have their own reasons. So has it become a blame game? The last question is, what are our priorities? Is our priority today about accumulation of wealth? Or is it about building a stronger foundation so that we can see development and we can see prosperity? Another issue that I would also like to address, what is really the problem? Why is it that our families day in, day out are just weakening? What is the problem? In my own analysis, I am looking at around 5 areas that we must focus on in order to identify this problem. Number one, we go into marriage, but we take little time to do a self-evaluation. You are married to so and so, and you know what he can and what he cannot. But still you go ahead to expect a lot. You are having a lot of ambitions. You are having a lot of expectations. At the end of the day, you start demanding for what is beyond his or her own capacity. Isn't it the right time that each and every partner in the family goes back and do a self-assessment, a self-evaluation in the best way? The second point is, we are having a lot of peer influence. Our families have been infiltrated by so-called friends. Those who happen to ask you, how is your husband treating you? When this poor woman starts narrating, says, Akujoga, don't accept that. Then on the other side, also some men start coming to you and they even mock at you. I can give a simple example myself. I'm one person who wouldn't like to enter at my home after Maghrib time, except under serious circumstances, serious necessities. I'm a person who enjoys to go home when it is still day, when my children could actually see me clearly. But you find some men around asking you, you know, are you going? Why are you getting home so early? So at the end of the day, they start indoctrinating you. They start changing your mindset. And the person who actually used to go home early, you start changing your culture. You hang around in the so-called cafes, watching football, taking, they call it kachai, taking some tea and so on. But you are doing all this at the expense of your family. And you know when our wives start seeing that there is a paradigm shift, there are some changes, they start becoming suspicious. And suspicion is the roadway, is a way to dismantling the family. That is why I always tell young men, never accept any situation of suspicion. You know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you remember in one situation, at night when he was moving in a company with Safiya, it was dark and two companions were coming. So, being at night, they managed to see that this is the Prophet, but they could not clearly identify the person who is accompanying him. So they shied away. In order for the Prophet to end this suspicion, he said, Ala rislikuma, stay where you are. Innaha la Safiya. This is Safiya. The Prophet does not want to create any situation of doubt. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the issues that is destroying our families in terms of the intermarital roles and responsibilities, we have allowed the payers, the so-called friends, to influence us. They are actually killing our families. And I'm here, therefore, to call upon each and every person, you understand your partner. Go with that. Except in such circumstances where the friend comes in for guidance. Things are not working out. But in many situations, by the way, the so-called friends come when the situation is okay. They start saying that no is undermining you. No, don't accept. No, don't do this. At the end of the day, you become disobedient and then you lose it all. Another challenge that I'm seeing, there is a lot of discontent and materialism. We are turning our families into commercial ventures. We are turning our families into unnecessary competitions. What you saw at the neighbor's home, it is what you want to achieve in the next day. It is not possible. The films or the movies are also doing a lot of disservice to our families. We happen to bring the television sets. We happen to bring the so-called videos and so on, so that our children, our families can get entertainment when they are bored. But these are also becoming a problem. Because he has watched a Nigerian movie whereby a family is living in a storage building. By the time you come back home, the face is so round. What is it? Why don't you construct a house like the one I have watched in the movie? That is the situation. So when we start turning the family setup into materialism, when we start having this kind of discontent, this is where we are going to head, my dear brother and my dear sister. Another point is, one of the challenges, one of the problems I have personally witnessed, or I have personally realized, we have disassociated, we have removed spirituality from the marriage setup. It is all about enjoyment, pure enjoyment. A simple example. Last time we are talking about the marriage ceremonies. When you attend a marriage ceremony of a Muslim, you ask yourself, what is really Islamic about this ceremony? It is all about entertainment. It's all about which kind of a musician or artist is going to come. It's all about what kind of a dress is the bride going to put on. My dear, it is our humble request, it is our humble reminder to all of us to understand that marriage is ibadah. Marriage is an article of worship. And therefore we have to be sincere and we have to behave like people who are doing ibadah, and therefore we are expecting rewards from the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Finally, on the problem statement, we have a wave of westernization. I have already talked about it. We have the problem of a blind following. Whatever you have heard, whatever you have seen, we are just importing cultures and behaviors without any chance for scrutinizing them. So at the end of the day, this being the situation, that is why you see that our families are heading towards collapse. Having said that, we now want to look at what is the Islamic approach. having given that kind of introduction. You know, many people have found us conducting our business the way we conduct it. And they don't know that we actually have a system that we are following. My dear brother and sister, you are a Muslim. You have been connected to this partner through nikah. And we always say that Islam is a complete way of life. So when it comes to the intermarital roles, we need to appreciate what is the Islamic approach. The Islamic social system is complete. And we need to appreciate the fact that it was organized on complementary roles between the husband and the wife. And there is an objective on top of that. When the husband does this, we achieve this objective. When the wife does this, this is the objective. So these complementary roles are result-oriented. This is the statement that I can use. It is not about seniority. It is not about superiority, that I am a husband and therefore I have to do this and that. Whatever Islam has decided to be conducted by the husband, it was decided so that you can do your role in order to achieve a certain result. We are like in a football match, whereby each person is having a number, and you are doing or you are conducting your role, whether you are a defender, whether you are a midfielder, whether you are a striker. At the end of the day, our objective is to win the game. But the challenge we have now in the intermarital roles is that actually our movements are not connected. When you ask a woman, when you ask a wife, why are you doing this? At the end of the day, she might not be in position to explain whether the end result is serving the objective of marriage. When you ask the man, why are you doing this? You might not get a satisfactory answer whether it is leading to the achievement of the objective for which the marriage was set up. So at the end of the day, we need first of all to understand, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this is the role of the wife, it was after analyzing what is the potential of a woman. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this is the role of the husband, this must have come after analyzing the capacity, the ability, the potential of a man. So having these roles mixed up, it is actually leading to the collapse. What am I trying to say here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it is said in the Quran, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Allah is the one who created us. He knew that the man is having the physical constitution, which is rough, which is tough, he's energetic, he's ambitious, and therefore let him take the responsibility of protecting the family and maintaining it. The way how Allah has built you as a man, you have that potential to go out and strive, to go out and struggle, so that at the end of the day, you can bring food to the table. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you that kind of energy so that you can actually give protection to your family. When we look at the mother, when you look at a wife, Allah knows to a great extent the woman's physical constitution is weak. It is tender. But at the same time, this is a principle of creation. When you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving you something which you might actually take as a weakness, on the one side, He has given you something which is giving you a lot of strength. So you might look at a woman in such a way that she's weak in terms of the physical constitution. But Allah has given her a very strong emotional setup. In some situations, I might be called as the husband to carry a certain item or a certain property from one place to another, because that one calls for physical strength. But my dear, there are some petty work at home which I can't do, yet you might think that because I'm strong I can do that. You might, last time I was sharing with you that you might not be in position to stay with a young child for just one day. You might not do that. But the mother has that capacity, she has that potential. So, when we look at the intermarital roles and obligations, the intermarital obligations and rights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first knew that this is the potential of this one, and therefore she can do it. This is the potential of this one, and therefore he can do it. According to the Islamic arrangement, we need to accept that the husband is the head of the family. Because of the potential, because of the roles. Not only that, according to the Islamic arrangement, the husband is also doubling as the one heading the foreign affairs department. That is why everything that is taking place outside, I'm the one who is bringing news to my wife. Do you know what happened? Do you know what? Because that is the way how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has arranged it. When you look at the woman on the other side, the mother, the wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made her the deputy head of the family. At the same time, she's the one in charge of the internal affairs at home. So you find out some of the reasons, by the way, why families are failing. You as the man, you want to know the A, B, C, D of what is taking place at home. This is not your department. You are supposed to come to the wife and ask so that she can direct you. I can assure you that in many situations, you might actually look for something and you can't find it. But the moment you tell the mother, you tell the wife, excuse me, can I know this? She knows very well because this is her home. You remember in one of our presentations we said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is our obligations as men to construct these homes, the structures, the physical structures. But immediately after constructing and marrying, these homes belong to wives. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La tukhrijuhunna min buyutihinna. Don't take them out of their homes. Why? Because they are the ones in charge. Because they know more. You know that any person who is appreciating that, just the simple politics of any nation, you know how fundamental, you know how important being the head of state and being the vice president. I understand in some situations, vice presidents have been reduced to just ceremonial. In some situations. But in a situation whereby you really have the state, when they say this is the vice president, you know what it means? At the same time, I know that many of you actually know how significant is the foreign affairs ministry. You also know how significant is the internal affairs ministry. So that is the Islamic arrangement. However, the question now, which is always asked by my moderator, is this kind of arrangement, is it mandatory? In other words, is it a must that always the man should go out and work and the woman should stay at home? Is it mandatory or it is just directory that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was just helping us to arrange our families? Another way of looking at it, is it a Quran that shouldn't be changed, shouldn't be modified, or it is an interpretation that adheres to the time-space dimensions? You know, there are some situations, as we are going to look at, whereby you might find out that, yes, you are the father, but the situation actually dictates that you should stay at home and babysit. Yes, you are the mother, but the situation now dictates that you should go out and earn a living. These are the realities. So when you see that according to the traditional setup of the Islamic social system, that the father is charged with looking for provision, the mother is supposed to sit at home, the question comes, is this Quran? Is this approach, is it a mandatory or it can be modified according to situations? My answer to this is that keeping other factors constant, this arrangement should be adhered to a great extent. Let us allow the father to carry out his roles as put down by the Quran and the Sunnah. Let us allow the mother to conduct her role as put down by the Quran and the Sunnah. But at the same time, we should know they can be amended. They can be modified depending on some situations. Let me give you some of them. There are certain eventualities. There are certain emergencies that come in life. You didn't expect them, miscellaneous situations. How do you look at a situation whereby the father, who is a breadwinner, now he can no longer go out to do that, maybe because of a serious accident is at home. And the woman has the potential to go and work. Should we continue saying that, you are the breadwinner, you go and work, when you are seeing that actually is physically incapacitated? And the woman now has the potential, she's a professional one, she can go and do what? And work. Of course, we shall have a discussion about the Islamic position of a woman going out to work. But what I can say now is that Islam does not have a problem with the woman working. All what Islam requires is to look at the working environment. Is it okay? When she's going from her home to the workplace, is she still commanding her modesty? Is she in such an environment that is protecting her modesty, her shyness, her deen? That's all. Otherwise, there is no any verse, there is no any hadith that says that the woman shouldn't work. And the point that I'm emphasizing here is that the situations can change actually, and you find out that a person who traditionally should stay at home is now supposed to go out and work so that we can have the ends meet. Another situation which can lead to the change of these traditional roles, you might be married to a wife who is actually having more opportunities for work than you. Maybe you started a certain course, which I don't want to mention, and this course actually is not attracting, is not exposing you to any job. But the woman, walillahi alhamd, she's having such opportunities because she started a certain course which is selling. Should we continue saying that no, even if you are jobless, you should go and work even at the time whereby actually you don't have the opportunities or not? Another situation is passion. By the way, I might be in position as a husband to go out and work, and my wife can also be in position, or she can also accept to stay at home. But these issues of interest and passion sometimes creep in. How do you look at a situation whereby my moderator here is actually a graduate of nursing school, he's a nurse, he's a male nurse, and therefore he has a passion of babysitting? Why don't you give him an opportunity to babysit so that maybe, even another situation, you find out that he started catering and he has passion in staying in the kitchen, preparing food and so on. And then the woman maybe may be having a different way of looking at that. At the end of the day, my conclusion is that Islam has given us these principles so that we can arrange our homes. It is not Quran that cannot be modified. Look at your individual situation and see what really works for you. And by the way, it is at this point that I must emphasize the so-called friends and peers who come to you and start saying that, Mukazi wakola, you mean your wife is working? You are dead. It is all about you, the two, to sit at home and find out what actually works for you. What could be an intervention? The intervention is simple. How do you balance between work and attending to the responsibilities at home? Is it possible, for instance, that I come here one day and my wife stays at home when I am out, and then the following day it is like we are substituting? If the situation is calling for that, what is the problem? Islam is a dynamic religion. It always adjusts according to the situations. Now, as we go to the intermarital roles, I understand my moderator might be wondering, why have I taken so long to start talking about what does the woman do, what does the man do? But I want to lay this foundation so that we don't find a lot of problems. What are the premises? What are the prerequisites? Our families are failing at intermarital roles because we are not appreciating certain fundamentals, certain principles. Number one, Intermarital roles, to a great extent, they are moral and not legal requirements. I am happy that in this physical class we have lawyers who from time and again it's about legal. When the intermarital roles turn into I'm going to sue you, you have a case to answer, my dear, just know that the door is closed. It is dark. To a great extent, by the way, we do things morally, not because I'm under any legal obligation. Once you take them to be like legal obligations, I'm just going to do the needful. That's all. You say that I'm the one who's supposed to provide for the family? Yes. I'm going to go and buy a sack of posho and put it there. Then I buy a sack of beans and put it there. Then I ask, don't you have food at home? Yet really, I have the capacity to buy rice. I have the capacity to buy meat. I have the capacity to buy fish. But the moment you start emphasizing legal, I'm going to sue you. You have a case to answer. My dear, I'm going to take you to court. I can assure you that it is now dead. It should be moral. It should be in a situation. Let me make one statement that maybe some people might not be knowing. A wife in Islam is not under a legal obligation to do the house chores. The house chores. Not at all. It is not a legal obligation of the wife to wash your clothes. It's not a legal obligation of the wife to mop the home. Her role is to manage. So bring the person whom she's going to supervise as a manager. But now, because it is moral, it defeats reasoning that I have come here, I have strived, I have done this so that I can bring food at home. Then I find you, madam, because it's not your legal obligation, you have not washed my clothes, you have not mopped the house, and you say, this is not a legal obligation. So you find out that we need to appreciate these roles at a moral level. Once we do that, I can assure you that, inshallah, our families are going to progress. So that is the first point. Let us take the intermarital roles as moral obligations, but not as legal obligations. Number two, I wish the partners could appreciate another premise, that al-kamalu lillah, perfection is only for Allah. So when you are demanding for a lot, when you are demanding for perfection, when you are demanding for 100% adherence and compliance, you should know that you are dealing with a human being. Al-kamalu lillah, perfection is for Allah. Any deviation, any weakness that you find in your spouse, whether this husband, this wife, just to know that this is a confirmation that she or he is a human being. That's all. Otherwise, what brings us to marriage is because I have a weakness here. Let my wife come and mitigate that weakness. That she has a weakness, let me come and mitigate it so that we can complement each other. That principle should also be well understood. Principle number 3. If we want to succeed in our intermarital roles. Principle number 3. Emphasize obligations before rights. This is also another challenge. You know, we are living an era, women rights. Oh yes. We are living an era of children rights. I have not seen activists raising up to say women obligations. I have not seen activists coming out to say children obligations. It's all about rights. But our Sharia, our Islamic approach, Shari'atuna Shari'atul wajibat qabla al-huquq. Our Sharia, please do your role first. I always share with my class the concept of basic trust and basic mistrust. For instance, there is an ongoing discussion about whether the woman or the wife should kneel down for the husband or not. I'm wondering why we even take time into all this. First of all, we need to ask, what is the spirit of the woman kneeling down? And if you go home and your wife doesn't kneel down, who is to blame? Who is to blame? Because what I know, a woman or a wife actually kneels down in appreciation of what you have done for her. In many cases, when you come home and your hands are full, really, she justified herself going down to appreciate. Why? You have carried out your obligation. But you go home empty-handed. The moment you reach the gate, you start shouting at everyone. And you expect them to reciprocate by respecting you. It cannot be. So my call is, let each and every partner, let each and every key player or stakeholder emphasize your obligations before you look at your rights. You know that during the Prophet's time, a certain father took a child to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulallah, this child is disobedient. I am telling him to do this, is disobedient. And the Prophet asked the son, why are you disobedient to your father? The son said, Ya Rasulallah, ask him, who is my mother? How did he choose my mother? This person has chosen a mother from a street, meaning that the father didn't carry out his obligation of making a right choice. Now he's blaming the son because of disobedience. So the point is clear. If we want to be successful in our intermarital roles, do your obligations first. Before you do your obligations, you don't have any basis to claim for any right. That is the Islamic approach. Another point is reciprocity. Marital roles are taken in such a way of give and take. What have you given in order to take? That is the basis. That is why, by the way, you find out that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, He said, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Your women are having rights over their husbands which are similar to those the husbands have over them. So we need also to emphasize that. What have you given in order to deserve something? You think that when I leave you at home, you don't do anything. Do you think that I get the courage to carry something special for you? What have you done? What extra mile have you moved so that you also make me to move an extra mile? That is all about reciprocity. Then another one is mutual trust. Our intermarital roles, we are not doing well because, by the way, we have lost trust. That is why these days I am actually against any preacher, any person who is saying that my wife does not have access to my phone, but I have absolute access to her phone. That's not fair. Yes, I understand as a husband, I have a right to have the second, the third, and the fourth. They are saying that because my positions are not yet full, therefore, the woman does not have a right to your phone. But because for her she's only allocated one slot, then you have access to her phone. That is not fair. I remember one of the preachers saying, the best way of taking care of what is going on in your wife's phone is to take care of what is taking in your own phone. Let the system be clear, by the way. I have no problem. If the situation that I have set at home that don't tamper with my phone, wallahi, I don't tamper with her phone. That's it. It's mutual trust. But the situation whereby for you want absolute access, and when she looks into yours, you say, you are destroying marriage. That is not fair at all. It is all about mutual trust. It's about fidelity. The same way you don't want men to be around your wife in a suspicious manner, it is the same way she doesn't want to see you around women in a suspicious manner. So the moment we have that into action, inshallah our intermarital roles shall be at their best. Imam Shafi'i, you know, he talked about this in a poem. He said, "A'iffu ta'iffu nisa'akum 'anil maharim." If you want to guard your wives from promiscuity, from infidelity, guard yourselves. But where we go on saying that omusajja sajjalata, isn't it? That a man shouldn't be questioned. Now, where do you get the moral authority to ask her where she has been, whom have you been talking with, and you don't want her to question? As long as, by the way, you have never come out clearly to say that this is my second wife, she has a right to ask. Because she's a partner. She's a partner in this project. When she doesn't ask, do you know the repercussions? The repercussions are very clear. If she doesn't question, first of all, your integrity is being dented as the husband. At the same time, also her integrity is being questioned. When, for instance, a certain man is known to be an adulterer, do you think that his wife shall be respected? They shall be saying that this is the husband, this is the wife to that adulterous man. So, it is about mutual trust. It's about fidelity. It's about love. If you want love, give love. So these are the bases of the marriage companionship. Finally, as I go to break, I understand the audience is seriously waiting for the intermarital roles, but I thought it is very important to lay down this foundation. Intermarital roles are about closeness. They are about oneness. They are about cooperation. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was describing the relationship between a husband and wife, first of all, he described it like the relationship between the body and the garment. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahun. Have you taken some time to contemplate about the meaning of that verse? My wife is like my garment. I am also like her garment. Have you ever thought about the relationship between the body and this shirt? What does this garment offer to my body? It gives it protection so that my body is not ashamed. It gives it some kind of warmth so that I'm not exposed to unnecessary coldness. What do I do in reciprocity? I keep it clean. I put it in a respected place. That is the situation that should always be between the husband and the wife. It is a body-garment relationship. When you are getting out for work and you find out that your shirt, your trouser, your hijab is having a dent, it is having a spot, do you go ahead and put it on? No, you just have to change because it is now going to shame you. So the same way, you are supposed to look at your wife in such a way that, is she fine? She's also supposed to look at you, are you fine? Emotionally, physiologically, psychologically, and so on and so forth. Once we appreciate the intermarital roles with those bases, I understand that implementation shall be very easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also described this as a garden-farmer relationship. Nisa'ukum harthul lakum. Fa'atu harthakum anna shi'tum. That is Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 223. What does it mean? I always tell my class, my father used to be a cattle keeper at a small scale. My father, Sheikh Musa Sebumba, is a cattle keeper at a small scale. But when you see the love that exists between him and the cows, that's when you can actually appreciate this analogy. Nisa'ukum harful lakum. Your women, your wives are like your farms. So go to your farms at all the times. Young men have misinterpreted and misunderstood this. That at any time, he's free to come and ask for sexual relations. Because you are my farm. Therefore, at any time I must enter. Who tells you that? The relationship between the farm and the garden is a love relationship. It is a relationship of cooperation. What does the farmer do? He goes out, clear the ground so that there is no weed. When he sees that the crops are not coming out stronger, he goes to the market so that he can buy fertilizers. From time and again, he checks on it. He does the mulching. He does the what? At the end of the day, what does the garden do? Give him good fruits. Give him. That's the relationship. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to appreciate out of that. Finally, as we go for break, marital relationships are about complementary roles. I'm wondering, why do we recite وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and we recite this to strangers? The concept of cooperation that is talked about in Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, help one another in righteousness and piety, should start between the husband and wife. How do you cooperate? How often do you wake her up for tahajjud? How often do you talk to her and you try to console her in case she's having some psychological torments? It is about a ta'awun. Go to Surah At-Tawbah. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَيُطِيعُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ أُولَٰئِكَ سَيَرْحَمُهُمُ اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Surah At-Tawbah. Allah is talking about that believing men, believing women, they are close to one another. Why do we emphasize this in the mosque and we don't emphasize it at home? This should be the beginning, because as we know, the families are the first training grounds for the society. So if we are emphasizing Muslim brotherhood, Muslim cooperation, let us start with your cooperation with your wife. I want to end on two notes. Someone told me that the basic way of understanding that when you see people in a car driving and there is a gentleman here, in many cases on the steering, there is a woman on this side, the best way of understanding whether they are married or not is to look at their faces. When you see their faces gloomy, they are not looking at each other, the simple conclusion, these are married. I don't know whether I am right. So you drive miles and miles and you have not talked to her at all. You know, these people who are making comedies, one of them was saying that please learn to move in a company with your wives. But even when you move with them, especially to these functions, just try rehearsing how to talk to her, just to make some conversation. But you find a situation whereby you have attended a ceremony with your wife, you have not spoken to her. The only statement is, Malawo sodo yo tugende. You know, finish that bottle of soda so that we can go. That is the only statement you have made since you came with your wife. So seriously speaking, when you are talking about Muslim brotherhood and you cannot implement it on your wife, the one you spend most of the time with, what are you preaching about? Finally, I was researching about divorce in Islam. I was writing a scholarly article about it. And I wanted to see the relationship between the Islamic approach to divorce and what is taking place in certain places. I came to know about a situation that used to take place in one of the towns or places in Romania. In Romania, some time back, they used to have what they call a marital prison. And a marital prison, it was a place whereby every partner who could have misunderstanding with a wife or with the husband, they could be referred to that marital prison. But they have arranged it in such a way that everything there, it is just one. There is only one fork, there is only one woman, there is only one plate, there is only one what? Everything is one. Even the pillow is one. The chitanda or the bed is small and it is one. So you are locked in that prison for a certain time. By the time people graduate from this prison, they resume their marital roles and marital relationship in a very good manner. In fact, I was reading about this, and a BBC reporter in 2017 reported that when the people of Romania were practicing or we are following that marital prison, in 300 years, there was only one case of divorce. You know what it means? Marriage makes us one. As long as we continue sharing this bottle of water together, as long as we share the same plate together, the same bed together. But these kinds of beds that the likes of Abdul Hakim want, I don't know, 6 by what? You know? Someone is sleeping at the extreme end, then the other is sleeping at the extreme end. It is already, you are already facilitating separation. I wish that each partner should go and have a marital prison in his or her home before you are taken there. So I want to pronounce myself clearly by saying that ideally the woman should stay where? At home. That is if the ground is leveled. That is if all factors are constant. And it is under exceptional cases that she has to get out of the home. That's it. Now you are asking, if she's not under any legal obligation to wash your clothes, to clean the home and so on, what is the dowry for? What are we paying for?
It was a gift.
Okay? First, when we are discussing about dowry,
It was a gift.
we say it, dowry is a gift. Number 2, dowry shouldn't in any way be understood as a consideration for the woman's sexual services or any other service or reproductive services. Otherwise, when we start taking dowry as a way of buying the service of a woman, we are going into what we call commodification of marriage. She's now becoming a commodity. When she becomes a commodity, you have reduced her to the lowest of the law. So, what are you paying for? You are paying for the complementary roles. You know, I don't want to take you into the discussion whereby, by the way, some women, according to the fuqaha, the jurists, they shouldn't even breastfeed. I'm telling you, you will find that version. Some women, by nature, because they are coming from distinguished families, they are honorable, they don't breastfeed. What she produces, look for someone who should breastfeed and you pay her. You know, but I don't want to take you that route. I'm just trying to show you that the point that I was raising here is that, and this is going to take me to the moral versus the legal. The spirit in implementing the intermarital roles shouldn't be that it's a legal obligation. It should be a moral one. The difference between the two is that a moral obligation just naturally flows. You know? But a legal one is that if you don't do, this is it. Let me give you a clear example to this. Between a moral and a legal. When you move around Kampala, you will find some posters, don't urinate here. Fine 1 million. Are we together? That is legal. Are we together? Now what happens to someone who is not adhering to the moral obligation? He will look left and right. Is there anyone seeing me? No. He will urinate. You get my point here. So when it comes to the implementation, yes, it's your obligation to look for food. But as you bring food home, let it be the spiritual, the moral element when you are bringing it. Let me explain more. Once you take it legal, it's like I'm going to bring sugar and others and say, you know? But morally, I should wear a good face, a smiling face, you know? Because I know that I'm doing something that I love. Swala, isn't it a legal obligation? But isn't there a difference between your child who, by understanding that it is one, he gets ablution, you know? So the implementation within that child is moral, even though it is a what? It's a legal. And that is different from a child who says, therefore he's praying because he's fearing what? Being beaten. That is the interpretation, that is the understanding that I want you to pick. Okay. I'm not leaning towards women. Not at all. In fact, when we start looking at the intermarital roles and you see the reciprocity, when I bring home food at home, I am expecting something from you. When I do my role, I expect obedience. You get it? So if you don't obey, tomorrow I might not get the courage to do as expected. You get it? But at the same time, we must emphasize that we are living in a patriarchal society. There is no doubt that a woman, since history, has been marginalized. Isn't it the right time somehow to lean towards them so that we can encourage them up? You know that in one of the Prophet's hadith, he said, حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ أَمْرِ دُنْيَاكُمْ النِّسَاء. The Prophet said that among the things that Allah made me to love from your dunya, he said women. Okay? Those who didn't know the hikmah in that, they say, you see, your Prophet is so interested in women. No, he made that statement at the time whereby a woman was undermined. She had no any value. So when he makes such a statement, women raise up and say, Islam emancipated us. So why are you blaming me? In Yasriq, faqad saraka akhullahu min qabl. You know, if I'm leaning towards them, I am not the first. You get my point? Okay. Legal versus moral, I think that one I have addressed. As a director of Sharia, can I construct a marital prison? No. I want each one of us actually to construct a voluntary marital prison at his home. Let it be voluntary. You know, when you are told that you are under house arrest, that's when you start feeling it, isn't it? But don't you spend a full day and even a full week at home? So my advocacy is, let us start the marital prison voluntarily at our homes. I'm sure they will work for that. Who is responsible for the kids at home? That one we shall handle. Why are we supplementing on the budgets? That one we shall handle. And then more, what is it? When we say that there are some efforts to destroy the family system, yes, that effort might be there. But I also want to read again, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin. Allah does not change the situation of people until people do what? People will never stop plotting against Islam. They will never stop. But the problem I have with ourselves is like an analogy whereby medical doctors have advised you that you are living in a place full of mosquitoes. Please sleep under the mosquito net. Are we together? And then you choose not to sleep under the mosquito net. Then the mosquitoes bite you. Who is to blame? You get it? The effort shall always be there. And by the way, that is their job. But how have we arranged and organized our house? Okay? The issue of women going to work, it is actually a debate, as I told you, between the traditionalists and those who are saying that things have changed. But what we need to emphasize is to make sure that if there is no any necessity for that, why not? You know, why should she go out and work? When it comes to the issue of intermarital roles, do them with the spirit of, I have not been coerced to do it, even though there is an obligation for you to do it. You know? You might find two people. Do you know that some people, when they reach in Salah, the Prophet said, وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. You know? My settlement, my calmness, my peace of mind is in Salah. That is one category. Someone could go into prayers and really feels comfortable. Why? I'm talking to my Creator, the one who decides my destiny, and so on. Then the other one is just stealing the Salah. So the first one knows that it is an obligation, but he does it with that kind of, exactly, with compassion. So that's what actually I mean by the moral way of implementing things. Okay? Then, we have some people now who have come out to help families, especially when it comes to intermarital roles. I know our brothers and sisters, Asadullah and others, the PAM counselors, they actually help the families to appreciate these complementary roles. I am not their marketeer. I am not the one in charge of their adverts, but I want to encourage people to spare some money, to spare some time, so that they can go and renew their commitments. You know, sometimes when we stay, we even start seeing ourselves as ordinary, and what? I wish to call people to go and renew their commitments and at least be advised on the best practices, how you can make your family always, you know, how can you make it happy? How can you make it vibrant? You know? Now, social pressure. How can we adapt to the social pressure? In one way, how do we balance between home and work? I understand when Abdul Hafid leaves home, Hajatina Kafir also leaves home. You know? So how can we balance between the two? I have two issues to address here. Number one, contentment. We need to be satisfied. However much we shall go out and gather and collect, it shall not be enough. But you reach a certain extent now in a way, Pimira, you know, and you be satisfied with what we have. The woman, the wife is going out, the husband is going out. But at the end of the day, how much are you going to accumulate? And how many rich men have you seen? They say that now I can no longer go out because I'm satisfied. So let it be al-qana'a, let it be contentment. Okay? Then the very last is, because this is the situation we are in, let us see how we balance it. If the situation really warrants both of us to go, can we have some way of substituting? If I get out and she stays at home, and if she gets out and I stay at home, in that way somehow, somewhere, because I can assure you, you like it or not, even if you recite all the verses in the Quran, the current situation is not likely to be reversed. It is actually becoming worse. The best way is, how can we sit and see how to balance the situation? Let the professionals work, and let those which are doing casual work, they shouldn't. They stay home. The professionals are just lucky. You know? We can't lock others outside because they are not professionals. That is one. Number two, I also want to emphasize that as we say it is okay for them to work, they should also know the risks associated with working.
In fact, it is more risky for them than,
yeah.
than this hustle.
That is why I'm saying, let it be a family discussion. You know? Somebody has told me that, doctor, if you happen to know what is taking place in women in this particular work, I don't want to mention, you know, that kind of segment or that kind of area of work is more of professional prostitution. I don't want to mention the sector because people will feel that I have offended that sector. But there are some sectors which are known that mukazi wa akolawa, where does she work from? Say, you don't have a wife. You know, you don't have a wife. So, these media people, when they are taking out some messages, such messages should always follow so that the society does not misunderstand us. The risks that are involved, you know, with working should also be thought about. We have actually seen situations whereby the major factor that is leading to the breaking of the relationship is because she's working. So we need to think about that. And maybe we can also think about addressing this comprehensively. What are the pros and the cons? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Okay? Now, who owns the home? The Islamic arrangement is clear. You are owning the home. You are the one actually who is obliged to construct it. You know? That's why when we come to our discussion on divorce, I don't know the marital, the matrimonial thing, something. We shall discuss this at length, inshallah. So you own it. And you have the last word. Are we together? But okay. Yes. You have the last word. But
I knew.
وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. I know as the background you have, so you know that one very well. I always tell women that a man shouldn't be a dictator at home that is always giving the last what? The last decision. Men, we have an obligation to involve our wives in decision making, isn't it? But wives should know that the last word is with the chairman. Do you get my point? Yes, I can sit with you and say, how do you see this? Where should we take our child to school? Involving you and seeking your opinion is okay. By the way, it is one way of respecting you. But if women don't understand that the last word is with the chairman, then we are going to kill this concept of mutual consultation.
Doctor, is that Sharia? Why?
That is Sharia. That is Sharia. I actually told you that the Islamic social system is arranged in such a way that I am the president and in charge of foreign affairs.
Okay.
She is the vice president in charge of internal affairs. At the end of the day, if at all things go bad, who is accountable?
The president.
The president. Okay? So, we shall involve you in consultation, seeking your opinions, but please know that the last word is to the chair. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Ladies and gentlemen, would like to thank you for sparing time for being in this very educative moment. I need to make this disclosure. I have had and got information that Doctor, part of what we are discussing is forming part of courseworks for students.
Yeah.
Yeah, students not only at the Faculty of Law here at the Islamic University, not only here, but I need to make this disclosure right. I've heard that it is now being used as study material for many students who are dealing with family law. And the disclosure is, please take these messages in their entirety. Do not just pick them in captions. It's very important.
What about copyright law that now we have?
Now that
we have some.
We don't want to invoke the copyright law now because our intention is to disseminate dawah, but at free. But that aspect, when of course they know what literature demands, that one I'm very sure. But that one I wanted to make that disclosure.
Okay.
I was so surprised seeing one of the universities I will not mention where the lecturer sent students of family law to get the Islamic perspective out of your discussions. Sure. First of all, you are helping yourself in Kabul to get the answer. When
you say that, it's as if I'm about to die.
But
which is also okay.
I thank very much Salam TV for being broadcasters of the thank Al-HIDAAYA Media for making it be part of us. I've just seen Muslim channel. Thank you very much for your time and the ICT team at the Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus. Till next time, inshallah. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.